Well, hello there, awesome students, and welcome to week 7. This is it. We're coming up on the finish line, and as many of you know, that week 7 is usually a little more challenging. It's the most challenging week. Week 8 is really, we're kind of coasting down to the finish line, although I will say that in some classes, we do have project submissions in week 8. Not a big fan of those classes, by the way, in terms of grading, but nonetheless, our big project is coming up this week, and so we're going to dive into it here in just a moment, but I'm going to give you some tips and insights to create a PowerPoint presentation, including a methodology to what I call my down and dirty. Let's create a PowerPoint presentation quickly and efficiently. So I'm going to give you that recipe for success, and I'm also going to give you a key insight on how to submit your PowerPoint presentation to make it easier for you and I. And it's a different way to submit your presentation than you might be accustomed to. So make sure, watch this video all to the end. And so we'll talk about these things here. Now, as we dive into the information this week, I want you to start getting into the mindset of this presentation is the big one, okay? It's the big one in terms of submission, but I want you to think more in terms of an IO consultant, that you've been working on an assessment of a large company, and now you're gonna go back to present the information, okay? And I'll talk about that here more in a minute, but let's first talk about what we got going on this week. So as we dive into the overview this week, we're going to be talking about what? A gap analysis between current and future states. Okay, we got that right. We started to talk about that in weeks 1 and 2. And then we're going to talk about recommended interventions to improve an organization's working environment, which we just started to get into this past week or so. So there's also, 2, 3, 4, 5, everything in the middle is also going to be in your presentation. And this week is really an opportunity for us to just pull everything together that we've been learning in the course, take that information, and then present a solution back to the company. Okay, so you can read through this information here, talk about the tips for success, what you're going to learn. But in a nutshell, we're going to be submitting project 2, check those reminders and stuff. And if there's any general questions, make sure and reach out to me. It's always best, by the way, to reach out to your instructor direct if you do have some general questions. So let me first talk about the reminder this week for the ePortfolio. So I'm going to first talk about the ePortfolio submission, and this is something we're going to submit in week 8. Now, let me give you a little quick take on ePortfolios. This is something for you. This is something that will help your educational career as well as your future working career. And it is a tool, a resource that can showcase all of your product, in this case, your submissions. You're going to find when you get into a master's program and a doctoral program, when you're applying to internships and things like that, the people you're going to interview with for internships and practicum submissions are going to want to see examples of your work product. This is a great way to showcase it. So you have an opportunity to set this up now throughout your program. It's really easy. For your submission this week, I want to first paint the picture, give you a little story, right? Okay, I want you to think in terms of you're working for a large consulting firm, and you've just been assigned to go take a look at this company, do an evaluation of their challenges that they've got going on, and present back to them a solution. Okay, some services, some training, some support, some resources, whatever that might be, in terms of a presentation at the end. So let me first talk about at the outset. You work for a consulting firm, you've got this referral, you're going to go out and sit down with the company, and you're going to say, we're going to first do an evaluation and assessment. That is a small project. It is also a small piece of income where, let's say you might make 10 or 15% of whatever you market and sell to this company. So you're going to first do an evaluation that could just be a few $1,000s. It depends on how much time and energy you put it in, how many resources you do, etc. But generally speaking, you're going to do an assessment and give them some type of solution. Now, your ultimate goal is to be the person that facilitates the solution as well. But often these are 2 separate projects. It could be combined as one. But you're first going to do that assessment. You guys have been doing that for several weeks, talking about some of these things in terms of assessment. We've done that now. We've collected all of our data. We have all of our information. And now we've got to put together a PowerPoint presentation to go back and present to the board of directors and some key leadership individuals to ultimately sell, let's say, a $100,000 project. Now, this becomes a lot more important to you, right? Because if you're implementing a large project and you make, let's say, 15% of what it is that the project is sold for, obviously that's a very large check for maybe 6 or 8 weeks worth of work. Okay, so I want you to start thinking about it in that perspective. That is what you're going to be developing this week as you put together this PowerPoint presentation. You're going to be developing a presentation that you could walk into a board of directors and present and have all the information there. Okay, so let's talk about what specifically you're going to be putting together. There's a number of documents here that we've been working with and talking about for several weeks here, and some of the information is new. You've got the satisfaction survey. Okay, we understand that. This is the mission statement, the vision statement, which is going to be important to integrate into your PowerPoint presentations. You've got some EEOC complaint letters. So these are actual letters that the company has been sent from the EEOC. So this is obviously puts a little bit of a fire underneath them to get a solution in place as soon as possible. You've got some stakeholder information, okay, some statistics about gap and things like that, where they're at currently versus where they want to be. And there's a PowerPoint speaker notes tutorial. This is going to help you with part of what I'm about to show you if you're a Microsoft Word user on PC. I'm sorry, PowerPoint user on PC. If you're using a Mac, I'm going to show you very specifically on how to do this on a Mac, but everything I show you is going to apply to PCs as well. It's just going to be in a slightly different place. So I'm going to give you a little framework for that here in just a moment. This is the gist of what you're going to be putting into your presentation. And let me talk about what the expectations are on the bottom. Project 2 presentation template, I wouldn't worry about that. I'm about to show you a quicker, easier way to create or get started, kind of a quick start PowerPoint presentation that's going to be far better than starting from this. Okay, 10 to 13 slide presentation. You're going to be hard pressed to get this in less than 13 slides. And when I talk about 13 slides, that's a cover page, those are reference page or reference pages, and 13 slides in the middle. But as I said, your presentation is probably going to be larger than 13 slides, probably 15, 16 slides. Please don't go into the 25, 30 slide range. If you're at that point, it's too long. I want you to start getting into the mindset of when you're developing a PowerPoint presentation, it's roughly 2 minutes per slide. This is a starting point. Okay, that may or may not occur. Some slides are going to go by quicker, some you might take longer. But on average, I find that when I'm developing a PowerPoint presentation like this, it's roughly 2 minutes per slide. You're talking about some information, presenting the data back, etc. So if you think in those terms, a 10-slide presentation is roughly 20, 25 minutes with an intro and things of that nature. Again, 13 slides, you're probably 26, you're probably pushing 30 minutes. If you have a 40-slide PowerPoint presentation, that's like an hour and a half. Okay, gang? So if you want to write a script for an hour and a half worth of content, that's going to take you a good day to do, right? So be thinking about that as you put this information together. You want to be succinct in what you're talking about, provide some good information, supportive information that's going to help you to land this project. You're going to present this in Microsoft PowerPoint, although I'm going to give you a specific way to submit this. It's quick and easy for both you and I. You're going to include your speaker's notes with, I want to stress this, exactly what you would say if you were presenting to a live audience. Sources should be cited in APA style. So that's what you're going to be covering in your presentation. Now, let me give you a simple process to jumpstart your PowerPoint presentation, as well as a great solution to submit it, not just in this course, but if you have PowerPoints in other courses, this is a great way to do it in those classes as well. So over the years, I've had the opportunity to develop literally thousands of presentations, a number of presentations for class submissions as a student, a number of presentations as an instructor teaching students. I've also done a number of presentations to small, large audiences. I've coached people on developing presentations and so forth. And so what I'm going to show you is a quick, easy way to kickstart your presentation so you're covering all the basic elements. You got all the good information in there, and it's just kind of a seamless, easy way to get started, okay? So let me first talk about the development, the content development. So first, understand that a presentation and a paper have virtually the same starting points, okay? When we're writing a paper, I want you to think for a moment, if you were to take all of this information and you had to write a 10-page paper for this class with all of this information in there, what would that look like to you? How would you start? Now, some of you might not be thinking to start this way, but the most effective way, the easiest way, by the way, is to start out with an outline. This is basically the key format for your outline. These will be all the main sections within your paper, as well as some subsections that you would want to cover inside your paper. So if you take this outline, you fill it in with some little summary information for each one of these, or some bullet point information, essentially making an outline, right? You will have the foundation for your paper and the foundation for your presentation. Make sense? Okay, so I've done that here to get us started. And what I've done is I've created the basics here. Now, I've changed already some subtitling information. And if you look in here where the bold point subtopics are here is essentially set up for me doing this demo for you so I can quickly see, you'll understand in a moment, okay? But this is essentially all of this information translated into a quick outline. So what I want to do is I want to first work with my outline to develop my presentation. So I'm going to come in here, and what I'm going to first do is I'm going to change the view. Actually, take that back. This is usually what you're going to have is something along these lines, and you're going to change the view to outline view inside of PowerPoint. I'm sorry, inside of Microsoft Word. I'm going to go to the home page now, and you want to utilize a feature called headings. Headings are something you definitely want to learn how to use for both your paper development, because if you're utilizing proper headings within your submission, your formatting will always be consistent. Okay, that's how you should be doing it. Learn the tools, it'll make your life easier. So we're going to come into this submission right now, and I essentially want to make everything that has a bold word in it a slide. Okay, so each one of these are essentially going to be a slide. Therefore, each one of these is going to be a level 1 heading. So I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to hold my command down on a PC. I think it's either function or control that you hold down to do this. You guys will figure it out. This allows me to select multiple things, but also skip sections like I'm doing now. Oops, I forgot that one. And that one. Okay, so I've selected what essentially is going to be the basic slide presentation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, as I said, your presentation is probably going to be more than 10 for sure, and let me show you that here in just a moment, but that's what we're starting with, and we're in outline view right now. So what we want to do is go over in our headings and change those to a level 1 heading. And you can see it dramatically changed the format of the document. Now, there's some information under some of these that are like subtopics, right? So in this particular section here, I want to make that a level 2 heading. And you can see it changed the format there. I'm going to come down here. And by the way, this is where you would now come in and you would have your mission statement. Okay, maybe you would have your vision statement. Okay, you're going to develop your outline as you would. Now think in terms of what you're putting in here as a bullet point, maybe 4, 5, 6 words, like in that range. Maybe you've got 3, 4 bullet points for each slide. Okay, that's what you're thinking of right now when you're developing this. I'm going to go down here, root cause analysis, problem statement, problem categories listed. I'm probably not going to want this on my slide, but that's okay. There's some things in here that I'm going to delete from the slides as I go. These are really just notes for me, so I kind of know what I'm doing on the back end. So this particular information here is going to be a level 2. This particular information might be a level 3. Okay? So all we're doing is formatting our outline. Level 1 is think in terms of that being a slide. Level 2 is bullet points on the slide. Level 3 are bullet points under bullet points. This is 2. We'll select that, hold down the command key, select that, and we'll go level 2. Okay? So now we're almost done. Before we move on, I'm going to show you a couple little tricks. First things first, highlight all of your information, go up to your font colors and select automatic. This will automatically change the font into whatever's appropriate for the particular template or wherever we might be using it, as opposed to it being blue. Okay, so change that up front to automatic, you'll be good to go. You're now going to save this. So I would recommend that you save it as in a place that you're going to find it. You could see that I had project 2 outline base, and I'm going to go where I had overview here, and I'm going to change this to outline PowerPoint. Okay, so that I know it's different than where I started from. And again, I have this separated into folders within my computer. Now, this is an important tip. If you're on a Mac, you must do this. If you're on a PC, you might have to do this. I don't know why, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't on a PC. Instead of doing a .docx file, you want to scroll down to RTF, Rich Text Format. Change it to that, hit the save button, and you're done. Okay, now assuming you have all the information that you want in there, this is basically going to be a starting point for your presentation. You're going to close this. And now we're going to open up PowerPoint, and I'm going to go new presentation. Once you're inside PowerPoint, you're going to start off on a blank slide, and I would recommend that you go in to design and go through and just pick one of the designs that you want to start with. It just gives you a starting point for your presentation. Okay, you can completely change and customize it later. I'm just giving you, again, kind of an easy path. So we've got this now. Now, this is where the tricks come in. We're going to go to the Home tab, and under New Slide, we're going to click on Drop Down and drop down to Outline. And now you're going to go in and you're going to find that RTF file that you just created in Microsoft Word. And drum roll, please. Da-da-da-da. Might take a few seconds, certainly depends on how much information you have, but what you can see now is that I've created a basic PowerPoint presentation for my starting point, okay? So I have, as I said when I was on that page, don't worry about the template. I'm going to show you something that's more effective and easier way to go. This is it, right here. So now you have a starting point, okay? So again, I want you to think in terms of you're going to give a presentation to a board of directors, so it's really important that you have the rockstar presentation. So I want you to start thinking in terms of when you're going through this, be thinking about what you're going to say, why you're going to say it, how you're going to say it on each slide. This is exactly the process that I do to develop my presentations when I'm doing that. I first make sure the content is in alignment on each slide. Don't worry about the backgrounds. Don't worry about the design tool. Close that, get that out of the way. Just focus on the content. Okay, the first slide is a nothing slide. We'll delete it. This slide, we're going to change the layout to a title slide. Project 2, straw mill foods, and you're going to have PSY440. Doctor, you put your name in here, your name and the date. Okay, so you got your submission there. Again, we're not worried about what the slide looks like or anything. We want our content to be where we want it to be. In fact, you might want to pull this out. Okay, and you might want to have straw mill foods and then your subtopic. I don't want to give you guys all the answers here. Come up with your own subtopics. Okay, so that's essentially going to be slide number 1. Now we're going to move on to slide 2. Slide number 2, company documentation include the following. Well, I don't want include the following on my slide, so I might have company documentation, and now I've got vision and mission statements, your vision, your mission statements, KPIs, key demographic information assessments. Okay, so again, as I said, this was a starting point for your submission. So when you get to this, this is a lot of information here, probably more than one slide. So you're going to come in here and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to have my documentation start out. Maybe it's a transition slide for company documentation, but I'm going to have vision and mission statements as being one slide. So I'm going to go in here, click on new slide. Now I'm going to change the layout of this slide, possibly something like this. I probably wouldn't do that. You might have the mission statement out entirely, where you would have something like this, the vision statement, maybe something like this, or you might just want to highlight some key elements in it. Again, I'm leaving that portion up to you. All I'm saying is on this particular slide, it's probably going to be more than one slide. Current state, positive attributes. Okay, I am going to call this current state. This is the current state of the organization. These are the positives. Okay, the positives was a note for me. Now I'm going to add number 1, number 2, number 3. You might have 4, you might have 5. You don't want to overwhelm your audience. You want to have the key information on your slides. Okay, again, think text. All we're doing right now is getting all of our content on our slides. Again, symptoms of dysfunction. If you're presenting to a board of directors, you're not going to say symptoms of dysfunction in your presentation. You might say current challenges. Okay, now you're going to put challenge 1. Probably want to spell that correctly. Challenge 3. You might have challenge 1. And you're not going to say challenge 1 is this. You're going to say whatever the challenge might be. And that challenge might have a subpoint. You might have that occasionally. You might have something where you're going to say there's 2 significant challenges we're going to address. Here's challenge 1 over here. Here's challenge 2 over here. Okay? So again, you're going to basically just set up your basic slides as you go through. Future state, organizational goals. This is essentially going to be organizational goals. This is where we're headed. That's what I would call it, okay? That's your future state. And then you're going to have your content in here. So whatever it is that you want to say, and again, be thinking about what you're going to be saying to the audience and the key information that you want to put on your slides. Easy peasy? Okay. Go through each slide in that way. What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? What key information do I want on my slides? Okay. When you get down to the bottom, you've got all of your content on each and every slide. Now you're going to go back to the top and you're going to start over again. If you recall, I talked about when I was doing the individual evaluations for week 5, I did some coaching for each and every one of you. And I also talked about some things in that overview video where I said, when I give a presentation, even for the first time, I've already delivered that presentation multiple times. Because every time I go through each and every one of these slides, I'm thinking about what I want to say, how I want to say it. if I want the words, if I want, each one of these bullets to pop out with the button every time I push the button, if I want all the content on the slide when I get to it, how do I connect to emotions? How do I make it applicable to the audience, etc., etc. All these things are swirling around in my head, okay? So go back to this slide. How am I going to start my presentation? Okay, now it's time to make your slides pretty, okay? Down and dirty. Now we're going to open up the design tool. And we could start with this. This is a great way to start designing your submission. Hopefully, assuming the internet, there we go. No design ideas. We'll start here. There we go. I don't know, sometimes it doesn't pull up stuff. It's probably because I got too much information. There it goes. Okay, so you're going to find something that works for you from here, or design your own, or keep going through the different styles. Okay, whatever this might be, wherever your starting point is. Great, you got what you want. Now you're going to go to the next one. And this is again where we probably developed 2 or 3 or 4 different slides from this information. So this is going to expand out. You're not going to do something like this. You're not going to do something like this. This might be okay if you're going to have like 3 or 4 bullet points, which is some quick information on. But again, vision and mission statements is going to take a lot more than just this tiny little bit of information. So those are some of the things that you want to do. Go through each one of your slides. So we're going to go over here, current state of the company. Now, you've got to this page and you thought to yourself, I want to put that chart in there that I put together, or I want to make this information be a chart. Okay, and I'm not saying for current state, I'm just saying wherever you want to do it. So change your layout. Go in here, click over here, and now you can add graphics or do whatever it is you want to do. You want to put in some type of chart or graph in to illustrate the information. You can go ahead and do that. Actually, let me pull this back. Design ideas keep popping in, where you can add this information and keep customizing your slides, okay? So anything that you want to do visually with the content on your slide to help reinforce your image is now what you want to do. I'm going to change this layout. So say, for example, you wanted to put an image in here. And I'm just going to pick a random image. We'll do the staircase. Okay. So you're going to go through and put this information in here. And when you put pictures in here, I think a lot of times is where you get some really creative representations of the information. I like that one. Okay. So now you've gone through on each one of your slides and you've decided what information, how it's going to be presented, so on and so forth. Now, let me give you a little side note on this. It's not important that you spend a lot of time with transitions or animation. That is what I would typically do next. So now I put all the graphics and I made each slide look the way I like it. Now I go back to the top. I start out on the first slide. Now I'm going to do animations and transitions. Typically, I'm going to pick 1 or 2 transitions for the entire presentation. So I might go over here and I'm going to do push, and then I'm going to apply to all. That's all I usually do. Sometimes there's 1 or 2 slides that I really want to, create a different statement or do something that really stands out. So I might choose a secondary transition for those couple of slides. Unless I have a specific reason, usually just choose 1 or sometimes 2 different transitions that'll work through for the whole presentation. Okay. Animation, same thing. You don't need to spend a lot of time in animation because I'm going to be grading the slide and your script. That's primarily what I'm focused on. So don't spend time doing all that stuff, gang, because it's really not helping. But that's typically what I would do next. I would go through, I would do my transitions, and I would go through and say, okay, on this slide, I want to have this pop up and talk about it for 10 or 15 seconds. And then the next bullet point come up and talk about that. So I'm doing it on a click. Or I might say, while I'm talking, I want it to pop up automatically in the background. Okay, again, you're visualizing what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and you're arranging it in that way. Okay, go through all your slides again. Again, we're pretty much skipping that step. So where you're picking up right now is your script. So we've gone through all the slides. We've got graphics and images. We've got our content looking the way we want it to look. Now we're going to put the script in. On the bottom, you might see something like that. Click here to add notes. You may also just see nothing on the bottom. And sometimes you can go in and just grab it like that and pull it up. Or you can come in and click on Notes View and it'll pop up and you can open it up. This is where you add your notes. In this case, most of the time what I would be doing when I'm doing a presentation is I'm going to have notes. In this section right here, I'm going to have some key information, some bullet points, some important things that I want to talk about, statistical information, whatever the case might be. Okay, things that I absolutely want to say. Maybe I want to talk about the CFO in particular. I would have his name down here, but it would be some type of outline format. In this case, you are all going to put your script in. What are you going to say on your title slide? What are you going to say on this slide? Here is your info, etc. Now, as I said earlier, you want to be thinking in terms of covering all this information word for word, specifically what you would say when you were on this particular slide. So in other words, don't come in here and say something like, on this slide, this is what I would be talking about. That was okay for week 5, talking about developing our story. Now you actually want to share the story. Okay, so as you get deeper into your presentation, there's an element in there for storytelling, kind of at the end and talking about our solution. Frame it however you want, but you're developing your presentation with all these elements in here with a script of exactly what it is that you would be saying. Okay, go through each slide one by one and do it again, and you're talking through all that information. Now, when you're developing your presentation, you're already kind of outlining that stuff as you go. So now you're going through your slides for the 3rd time. It's becoming easier for you. It's also giving you an opportunity to practice with the content over and over again. Okay? Go through each slide and outline your script. So I want to talk about why it's important to do your notes in this way. I'm actually going to show you why it's important. So to do this, to actually show you, I had to change the view of my screen. I don't normally open up the whole screen, but it's important in this particular context. If you've ever been to a large presentation, maybe you've been to an event and there's several hundred people there and they've got speakers on the stage, you might have seen, if you're in the front, there's sometimes a couple of monitors in the front of the stage. So I've had an opportunity on several occasions to be at events where you have this. One of the monitors usually will be a timer, and sometimes the producer will add notes down at the bottom, things that's important for the speaker to know just so they can make things run smoothly. The other screen can be this, and this is why this is important. This is why it's helpful to put your notes into this format. So I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to click on presenter view. Now, if you have 2 monitors while you're working and you play your PowerPoint presentation, generally what you're going to have is on one screen, you've got the slides going, and on the second screen, you have this. In this particular section up here, this is the current view as the audience sees what's on the screen. This is going to be what's coming up next. Now, if I have animation in here and I have bullets popping up, this slide might still be here with whatever the next bullet is. And my notes are going to be in here. And this is what I was talking about. In some cases, you might change your font size, make things bigger, make things smaller. But you can add your notes in here in developing your presentation, and then later you're going to have this information built into your presentation so that when you're sharing the information with your audience, it's right there in front of you. For this particular submission, you're not actually presenting the information, but rather just submitting your script. And instead of putting that on a separate Word document, which I now have to open up your slides in one place and open up your content in another place, which is kind of challenging for me. And it could be really simple for you to submit this. And this is one of those times when I see if students are paying attention or not. Here's what you want to do in terms of your submission. And by the way, gang, this is a great way for you to submit a PowerPoint in any class that you're going to have to submit to. Your instructors will appreciate this. So let me show you. Once we're complete, we got all the information, all the content that we want on each slide. We've got all of our images, our backgrounds, everything was good to go. And we've got our script on each slide. We're going to go into our presentation and we're going to create a PDF. In Microsoft Word for the PC, it's slightly different than what I'm going to show you now. Refer to the notes that's on the assignment page. I'll show you that real quick at the end, but there is a process to do that that is slightly different than what I'm going to show you. But the gist of what I'm going to show you is on both platforms. When you come on to print, you can see a preview over here of my slides. If you save this as a PDF now, what you're going to get is each slide on a page, and you'll submit it, and all I'm going to be able to see are your slides and no notes, no script, okay? Very important that you submit the script with this. Drop down to Layouts and select Notes. Now you can see the format has changed here, and what it's created is the slide on top with your script down below. And it will do that for each slide. Okay? Critically important that you do this. So I'm going to, in this case, open up in Preview, and this is a great way for you to check your submissions. You can open the file up and you can see very specifically exactly what it is that I'm going to see. Okay? So again, as I talked about, you'll have your slide here. You'll have your notes down below. You just save this PDF, whatever you want to do. This is the PSY440 week 7 final. By the way, it's good to put your name in here, your last name as well. And then you're going to save it. And that's the file that you want to submit to the class. Now, as I mentioned, in the assignment here, Resources PowerPoint Speaker Notes Tutorial, this is a tutorial that actually walks you through the process to do this on a PC. The process is relatively the same on both platforms. It's just where things are located, what things are called, or sometimes slightly different between Mac and PC. So I know a number of students are on a Mac. I myself is on a Mac, so you'll be fine. Just follow what I showed you. If you're on a PC, go through this little tutorial right here. It's a written tutorial with images. You'll be able to see the same exact process and you'll be good to go. If you submit it in that format, it is a smaller file. It's easier to work with. Again, you can open it up, see exactly what I'm going to see, and then your slide and your script are all on the same page. It's very helpful for me. It keeps me from having to download 2 things for each student, and it's a lot easier to review. And just like that, you're complete with your submission. So again, do your best to get on top of this earlier in the week as opposed to later. If you have some questions along the way, reach out to me. But again, I encourage you to work on things a little more aggressively this week so you can get a jump start on week 8. Now, one of the reasons why I stress this, gang, is because, as I always tell students, during week 8, you have an opportunity to have a break before you start week 1 on your next class. So the more aggressively you work this week, the more you can work into week 8 and the more time off you can have before your next class. So I hope this video helped you to get on track. I do realize it was a little bit lengthy, but I wanted to walk through those steps, those tutorials for you to help you get on track with your submission. So hopefully I got you guys on the right path for success. Again, if you need any support or assistance this week, don't hesitate to reach out. Dr. J here. I hope this video helped. I look forward to seeing your presentations. Have a great week.